Good morning, YouTube. You're tuned in to Katie Talk 101. And like I said last night, I was coming with this story about Ronald Gene Simmons. He was born in Chicago and he did something very, very awful back in 1987. He actually took the lives of about 16 people. He went on a killing spree. It took the lives of 16 people. 14 of them were his own family members, his wife and children. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna get on off into it. Good morning, Mr. Rody Rich. Good morning, and thank you for tuning in. All right, so I am going to get on off into it. Okay, so I have pieces of an article that I'm going to read, and I'm going to get off into a video that I ended up finding, and it's giving even more of a breakdown of the whole situation. Thank you guys for hitting that like button. I think I have a few likes hit already. If you haven't hit that like button yet, make sure you go ahead and do so. Okay, so let's get off into this real quick. Okay. Oh, that's not the one. Okay, here it is. All right. So Ronald Gene Simmons, he went on a 16-person murder spree, and 14 of them was his own family. So, and his last words were basically, to those who oppose of the death penalty, in my particular case, anything short of death will be cruel and unusual punishment. Those were his own words about his case. So that's what he had to say. I guess those were his last words. Okay, so in Arkansas, and this was on December the 28th in 1987, a retired military serviceman, his name was Ronald Gene Simmons, he walked into a law firm facility and he shot a secretary. He then went to an oil company, a convenience store, and lastly, his former workplace was at a Woodline motor freight where he also shot, and he some people fired back at him at that last place, but they did not hit him. And what's up, She Diaries? Welcome to the chat. Welcome. So he ended up snapping. He snapped this day. And it says that the whole rampage took 45 minutes. When it was over, he had killed, he ended up killing two people and he wounded four others. After fatally shooting his officer manager, Joyce Butts, at the Woodland Motor Freight, Simmons then surrendered to the security there. He ended up, I guess he surrendered and he ended up telling her to call the police. I've gotten everybody who wanted to hurt me. He said this to her. He waited there for the police and then they arrived. He handed over his guns without any resistance. But the most crazy part about this, the crimes that Simmons committed had not yet been discovered, and they were already days old. So when the police couldn't reach Simmons' family, two of the officers drove to the isolated home, and this was in the foothills of the Ozarks. So this was towards the Ozark Mountains in Little Rock. If anyone's familiar with that, good morning, Money Boy Trey. Good morning, She Diaries. Good morning, Baby Dog. Thank you guys for entering. Make sure you hit that like button. If there was anything next to wrap gifts below the ornaments of the Christmas tree, the corpse of 12 of Simmons' family members laid, each covered with coats. Later, the deputies found Simmons and his two toddler grandchildren wrapped in plastic sheets and hidden behind abandoned cars, and the cars were parked nearby. Investigators then realized that Simmons had began the killing spree with his own family members nearly a week before. Let's see, figured that they were a little special. Yes, I think so. They were very special. So, in the early life of Ronald Gene Simmons was actually born in 1940 in Chicago. After his dad, William Simmons, ended up passing of a stroke in 1943. His mom, Loretta Simmons, she remarried within a year, a man that goes by the name of William Griffin, who worked for the U.S. Army Corps as an engineer. In 1957, Simmons dropped out of school and then he joined the U.S. Navy. While stationed in Washington, he ended up meeting Rebecca, and they call her Becky. And the two ended up getting married in 1960 in New Mexico. Simmons then left the Navy a few years later and he joined the U.S. Air Force. Over 18 years, Simmons, they had several kids. So and Rebecca and Ronald ended up having a very good amount of children over the years. By the time Simmons had retired in 1979, he had accumulated several awards for his military service. He then received a Bronze Star Medal of the Republic Veteran Cross and the Air Force Ribbon of Excellence Marksmanship. So he did receive a lot of awards when he was in the military. He was very active. But Simmons, he wasn't the one big happy family. In 1981, allegations surfaced that Simmons had been sexually abusing his 17-year-old daughter, and that he had fathered a child with his 17-year-old daughter. The Department of Human Services in New Mexico launched an investigation. In fearing of prosecution, Simmons fled with his family. And then it says they wanted up to large tract the land known as Mockingbird Hill in Dover, Arkansas. The property was very isolated with no phones, and the property had no plumbing either. The remote location of the parents of Simmons was very harshly to be exact. The fatal task of the death to dig a 4-foot deep ditch in the yard, which Simmons told them that this was for an outhouse. You guys keep that in mind because that's going to connect some things at the end of this story too. And the fact that he had them to basically dig that, well, you're going to hear it. The killing spree then begins. Right before Christmas of 1987, Ronald Gene Simmons decided to kill his whole family. His reasoning has been made clear, but the following years triggered the several speculations. So people were also speculating that he took the life of everybody in his family because his daughter, who he allegedly ended up getting pregnant, his daughter moved on and she got married. And then there was another speculation that his wife actually planned on leaving him. I have a very vivid video that's going to tell a whole lot here. And I want you guys to pay attention to this. This was from another YouTuber. I'm not subscribed to them, but they have some very good information here. So I'm going to share this screen so you guys can see this. And you guys can get he's actually a white guy. He is a white guy. Let me see. I'm going to show you the image of him here so you can actually see and get an image of how this man looks. And he is actually passed on. Okay, so this is the gentleman right here. This is how he looks. Hold on, let me make sure you guys can see that. So this is Ronald Gene Simmons. This is him, the so-called family man who snapped. Okay, so let me make sure that I'm sharing most definitely the correct screen. Let me do a little rundown here. Let's all of your comments be seen. And then I'm gonna jump on into this here. Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen. He looks like a fool. Yeah, he actually looked crazy. And you know what? Sometimes when stuff like this happens, we look at these mug shots and we think to ourselves, wow, he looked like he would have done something like this. And actually he does. He looked like he would have done something like this. I have a very more detailed, vivid video, and it's basically a lot of the stuff that I kind of just ran down. Let me make sure I'm sharing it first. Okay, right here. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna make the screen a little bigger so you guys can see everything really good. And I'm gonna play this, and you guys take a listen to this. Okay.
16 times over for
Let me turn it up.
Well, such a man did exist, and his name was Ronald Gene Simmons. Welcome to Enter the Dark. Hello and welcome to Enter the Dark. I am Jan from Film Daddy. With me as ever is Les from Tales from the Hanged Man. Les, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Today's story is all about Ronald Gene Simmons. Now, you've not heard of him, had you?
No, he's a new one on me.
I'd heard bits about him, but let's go over it all now because, it's quite a weird one. This is sentenced to death 16 times over.
16 times. I mean, it kind of seems redundant after two.
It does after one, really.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Born on the 15th of July 1940 in Chicago, Illinois, Simmons was an Army brat. His stepfather was a civil engineer in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which led the family moving around the state of Arkansas. Following in the footsteps of the man who raised him, Simmons dropped out of school at 17 and enlisted in the U.S. Navy. He was first stationed in Washington, where he met a woman named Becky Ulibarri. Nearly 3 years later, the young couple wed. The pair would have 7 children over the next 18 years.
Mm.
So, yeah, your TV thing, not applicable, is it?
No.
Nothing to do. People just like to have kids.
So it's almost like that's what we're meant to do, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Simmons briefly left the Navy for 2 years before deciding to re-enlist in the Air Force. He retired in 1979, sporting a sterling 20-year military career that featured medals and honours for distinguished service.
Oh.
So, he's a good soldier, this guy.
Yeah, look at him go.
Yeah. His courage and dedication to his country make what happened next even stranger. He fell under criminal investigation on tips and allegations that he had fathered a child with his own 17-year-old daughter.
Oh.
Reports indicated that he'd been sexually abusing her for at least 2 years prior to the pregnancy. Fearing prosecution, Simmons relocated the family to a secluded plot of land in Ward, Arkansas. He created 2 makeshift trailer homes for his large family to live in. The property was desolate, isolated, with no phone, no plumbing, and was surrounded by a tall, makeshift fence. The remote location showed the kind of parent Simmons was. Harsh and exacting. Their final task before their death was to dig a 4-foot deep ditch in the yard, which Simmons told them was for an outhouse. Despite the fresh start, Simmons' life continued down a nasty path. He was unable to hold down a job as he became a steadily increasing alcoholic. Ultimately, a series of reported inappropriate sexual advances effectively ended his professional career. Becky, Simmons' wife, hated her husband. She prayed for hours every day and encouraged her children to do the same. She told the children they must find God in order not to meet their father in hell. Come December 1987, she had finally had enough. She decided to leave and intended on keeping the kids and grandchildren away from Simmons. I don't want to live the rest of my life with Dad. I'm a prisoner here and the kids too, Simmons' wife had written to their son shortly before their murders. Every time I think of freedom, I want out as soon as possible. Before she could do so, Simmons discovered her plans. In response, he decided he must kill his entire family. It is unknown whether the decision stemmed from a growing desire for incest, hurt at being abandoned, or was simply a psychopath finally snapping. Regardless, on December the 22nd, 1987, he went on a rampage that resulted in America's largest family mass murder. Simmons began by shooting his wife and eldest son, Gene, in the head. Shortly afterwards, he strangled his 3-year-old granddaughter, Barbara, to death. He then dumped the 3 bodies into a cesspit that he made his children dig a few weeks prior. After disposing of the bodies, he cracked open a beer, marvelling at the Christmas lights hanging from his mobile home.
Oh my God.
When more of his children arrived later that day, he told them that they had a present for everybody, but the present was one that he needed to show to each of them individually. Simmons first took his 17-year-old daughter, Loretta, out back, but there was no gift. Instead, he drowned her by holding her head underwater in a rain barrel. 3 of his other children eagerly awaited their surprise Christmas gift inside the trailer home. One by one, Ronald Simmons brought his children out back, murdering each one in the same manner as the last. 4 days passed before the rest of the family was scheduled to arrive on December the 26th. The first to arrive that day was his son Billy and his wife Renata, who were both promptly shot upon entering the home. Their 20-month-old son Trey was then strangled to death by his grandfather. Lastly, Sheila, the daughter he had abused and impregnated, was shot and killed alongside her husband. Their 2 children, one of which was fathered by Simmons himself, were murdered by strangulation. Simmons laid the bodies of his family in neat, tidy rows inside his trailer home in the lounge area. After murdering 14 of his relatives, Simmons headed down to the local bar for a drink. He returned later that night, apparently oblivious, or at least indifferent, to the giant indoor graveyard that he'd created. He spent the rest of that evening and the following day drinking beer and watching TV, enjoying the holiday season surrounded by the family. On December the 28th, Simmons ventured out of the house to go on another killing spree. It started at a local law office where he killed the receptionist named Kathy Kendrick. He had fallen for Kendrick, but she repeatedly rejected the much older man's advances. Next, he killed a man who he had no connection to, named J.D. Chaffin, before shooting and wounding 3 more people at the local business. His shooting spree ended at Woodline Motor Freight Company, the same business where he had been accused of inappropriate sexual conduct. He entered the building and shot one woman, severely wounding her. He then chatted calmly with the secretary and waited for police to arrive and surrendered without resistance. Simmons was charged and convicted of 16 counts of murder. He refused to appeal his death sentence, infamously saying, "To those who oppose the death penalty, in my particular case, anything short of death would be cruel and an unusual punishment." He offered up no explanation for his murder spree, nor displayed a single shred of remorse. He seemingly welcomed death, making statements that he wanted nobody to file appeals on his behalf, even stating, "It is further respectfully requested that this sentence be carried out expeditiously." During his 3 years in prison, he had to be kept in solitary confinement. Repeated threats were made against his life by other death row inmates. They were angry that he refused to file an appeal of his sentence, feeling it potentially damaged their chances of winning their own appeals. On the 31st of May 1990, the governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton, signed Simmons' execution warrant. The father from hell died by his chosen method of lethal injection. None of his surviving relatives claimed the body.
Wow.
You've got a man there who's a 20-year veteran in the army, not like been kicked out of the army.
Navy, wasn't it?
Navy and Air Force. He's not dishonorably discharged, anything like that. He was retired, he's got medals, he's got everything. And then he just started to go south, taking his family away after impregnating his own daughter. And then when his wife rightly wanted to leave, he killed his entire family.
I mean, do you think, again, here I go, trying to rationalise things. I mean, this man, I don't like diagnosing, but clearly a psychopath.
Yeah, something snapped in him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the snapping point was when his wife wanted to leave.
Do you think it could be anything to do with, like, in the army, he was regimented and he had rules?
I think so.
Then when he got out, he could do what he wanted.
he could. I don't even think it's that he could do what he wanted. I think. I mean, I think that it's probably due to the fact that everything was so regimented and everything was controlled. And I'm guessing to a certain extent, he didn't have to worry about the control aspect. Yeah. Then he finds himself in civilian life, and
okay, so they're basically just trying to give a breakdown of why they think he did. Okay. Okay. So yes, he was a military. He was a retired military man. A lot of people, like the guys we're talking about at the end of their commentary, they were just speaking on the fact that he was in the military. And She Diary says military people commit sex crimes often. I heard about that, She Diaries. I actually heard that there's a lot of situations that happen in the military, on base, sexual assaults, and different things, and they say a lot of it is swept under the rug. A lot of people don't even hear about the situations either. When it comes to some people that's in the military, I think really if you don't get the proper help that you need, especially after you're out of the military, sometimes people can end up snapping like this. I'm not saying the military is responsible. Just 1 second, you guys. Just 1 second. Okay, perfect. Do you know your filter size? Oh, thank you. Got your personal number? No, no, that's a company's number. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I probably should be asking for your personal number. This right here got my personal number. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back in and check your filter size. After I change it out, I'm just gonna hit it up. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, yeah, that was the AC filter guy. Oh, he's so sexy. Oh my God. Oh, I got the number, y'all. I got the number. Okay, but I was thinking this. I think when it comes to a lot of men who are in the military, a lot of situations like this happen where some people snap. Actually, I want to actually do a little more research on it as far as former military people that snapped. I hear She Diary say that too. If for some reason the majority I have experience in the Marines, Fort Hood. I've heard about a lot of stories coming from out of Fort Hood, Texas. I actually have a Facebook friend who spent a lot of time there. I would love to get in contact with him and possibly interview him, but I'm pretty sure, he's still active. So he probably can't talk about too much stuff. Let's see. Fort Hood has a bad reputation for women being killed and it getting covered up by the military. That's what I was just saying. A lot of things that happen in the military actually get covered up. And let's see. Okay. And this is, I was just thinking, what you say, go girl? Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Sometimes you hear a lot of people tell single women, girl, you're not going to get no man if you ain't going out. Sometimes if you have a guy that come, it have to do a repair on your house. Sometimes, that man can come to your front door, y'all. So don't give up. You don't have to be out in these clubs just to find somebody. And then, sometimes you will end up seeing a guy that you probably attracted to. And some women still have the old fashioned mentality like, girl, I'm not going to say nothing to him. I just look at it like, hey, closed mouths don't get fed, honey. If you see something you like, you can let it be known, but do it with class. But yeah, so let me find some more images of this man, Mr. Gene Simmons. So I'm gonna go to images. Let me make sure I'm sharing screen with you guys so you can see some images of this gentleman. Yes, I'm going to look up some stuff about Fort Hood. I heard a lot of stories about Fort Hood, Texas. A whole lot of stories that are very unsettling. And let's see, Vanessa. Vanessa was the last big case. She's from San Diego, Vanessa Gillian. I'm gonna look that up. What you say, Vanessa Gillian? She was the last case. The Vanessa situation. Let's see, she from San Diego. The Vanessa situation. I wonder how long ago that was. Like how many? I wonder how many years ago that was. I'm gonna make sure I look that up. I'm gonna make sure I look that up about Vanessa. May God rest her soul. Okay, let's see if I can get to a full screen so you guys can see a little bit better. Okay, so here is some images of the late Ronald. Ronald Gene Simmons. So these are some pictures of his family. Let's see. Here's some more images of his family. These are some family photos over here. Okay, that I think that's when they apprehended him. That's a picture of him being apprehended. That's another girl. Now, this girl video is really good. She has really long, detailed. It's really like basically what the guy said in the commentary that I played, but she just kind of stretched it out a little longer. And something else that I noticed when I was looking up the videos on the Ronald Simmons case, it's like everyone who talked about this story, all of them had an accent. I think I'm one of the few Americans that probably with a regular accent that covered this story. And I'm probably one of the few people that covered this story, and I actually live in the state where this gruesome murders took place. So that's an up close picture of him. That's him again. Okay, that's him with his children. And just looking at his family, he had a rather nice looking family. I mean, if someone just, was looking from the outside in, haven't heard about this story, they'll just look at this family and think it's just the all American regular family. And then I think, especially because of the fact that he was retired from the military, a lot of people get a lot of status from things like that. A lot of people get status from being retired from the military. He served, he had a lot of honors in the military, so it looks like he was pretty active and he did a whole lot of things. And if I can get off into, I want to see some more, just some stuff, basically a rundown. Basically a rundown of how he grew up. Okay, so this is a Wikipedia. This is a Wikipedia information about Ronald Simmons. So it says he was actually born July the 15th in 1940. He was executed here in Arkansas June the 25th of 1990. And as you guys heard, Bill Clinton, he was the president who signed his execution. He was in an American killing spree. And in history to this day, now in 2021, this goes down in history as the largest family killing spree. So that went down in history, that the largest family killing spree happened here in Arkansas. So it said that he killed 16 people over a 1 week period in Arkansas in 1987. This is just a simple rundown of what you'll see on Wikipedia if anyone was to ever pull him up. He's a retired military serviceman. Simmons was murdered. He murdered 14 of his family members, and that's including his daughter, who he had sexually abused, and the child. He fathered a child of hers, and as well as a former co-worker. He actually took the life of one stranger. He also wounded four other people. So it was, I think it was like basically a total of maybe 20 some people, but only 16 of them died because here it says he wounded four other people. But yeah, it was 16 people who was killed. So it was a total of 20 people that he actually shot, and four of them, luckily, they survived. It said that Simmons was sentenced to death 16 times. So they gave him a 16 death sentence. So they like, you get death for that life, you get death for that life, times 16. Okay, so you can only get killed one time. So I really don't understand that. I guess if he was to die and magically come back to life, they will take his life again. So I guess that's how that goes. So it says that he was sentenced to death 16 times. And after he refused to make a appeal for his life sentences. And it actually also made, 16 times. That's what I said. He did everything but put himself in the nut house. And you know what, baby doll? I was thinking when I was reading through the story, I was really, really thinking if he wanted to. But I think after everything he did, he just did not want to live anymore. But I think if he, with him having a military pass, with as far as the military actually training people to be killers, I think he actually could have pled, insanity. I mean, it could have been the devil made me do it type of thing. All of that. I think he really could have pled for insanity. It said that Ronald J. Simmons, he was born in July. His mother name was Loretta. His dad name was William. And on January 31st, 1943, his dad ended up passing of a stroke. His mother had remarried. Oh yeah, it's saying the same thing at the beginning, how his mother got remarried. On April 3rd, 1981, he was being investigated by Cloud Clough. I think, don't quote me on this word, but it's called Cloud Clough, New Mexico. The Department of Human Services, they allege that he had fathered a child with his 17-year-old daughter, and her name was Sheila, to whom had been sexually abused by her father. And Simmons was fearing arrest. Simmons ended up fleeing. So I guess once they left New Mexico, where he was facing charges for impregnating his daughter, that's when he ended up moving him and his family to Ward, Arkansas. And this is in the county of Lone Oak. Lone Oak is not too far from where I'm at. Actually, I think Lone Oak is kind of close to England, Arkansas, if you're familiar with England, Arkansas. So they ended up moving close to Lone Oak County in Ward, Arkansas. And then they moved to Dover, Arkansas, and this is in Pope County. I'm familiar with that as well. So Pope County, they moved there the summer of 1989. The family took up residence on a 13-acre. Oh, they had 13 acres. That's a lot of room. So 13 acres, and this is 6.5 miles north of Dover, which became known as Mockingbird Hill. The resident construction of two older model homes. So what he did, he took two mobile homes and joined them together. I'm from the country. I was born in Hensley, Arkansas, population 200-300. I never heard of anybody like pushing together two mobile homes and making one. Now, I remember this, this don't have anything to do with homes, but I remember back in the days have you guys ever did this? Like took two twin beds. Now this is some old school stuff, okay? If you were born in the 70s or 80s, you know about this. We used to take two twin beds and we'll push the twin beds together and get a real huge fitted sheet and put them on both of the beds. And we'll make like a queen bed out of two twins. Y'all probably don't know nothing about that. But yes, we used to do that. My neighbor had two of them together. Oh wow! And baby doll, I don't know if you're the subscriber that live here in Arkansas as well. I don't know. Comment below if you here in Arkansas. Anybody that ever came through Arkansas, comment below. But yes, we used to do that. But I said, I guess that's just the down south thing. We believe in. I did. I did that in college. Oh, Diary said she did that in college. I swear. But just make sure you don't roll over into that middle part because it can separate a little bit. And you know, sometimes if that fitted sheet pop and that bed separates right there in the middle, you know, it can get a little crazy. Okay, baby doll say yes. I visited Arkansas. Cool. You know, a lot of people just don't come through and visit. I remember me and my sister was talking. I was like, you know, when it comes to Arkansas, there's some people that just around the United States that probably don't even know of Arkansas. A lot of people don't really drive through here like that too much. But hey, it seemed like we always end up. Yeah, Diary. She is the one who is an Arkansan. Yes, ma'am. Arkansan. Girl, one day we're gonna have to meet up and have some drinks or some, girl. We're gonna have to meet up. Most definitely. Okay, so it's giving a rundown right here. Let me see what this says. Okay, so let's see. He was died of lethal injection, cause of death, lethal injection. His spouse was Becky. He had 7 children. And okay, and then it says here the weapons that he used in these murders. Okay, so his weapons was a hammer, a crowbar, a rope, H&R model 929 22 caliber revolver, and a Ruger single 6 shooter, a 22 caliber revolver. So those are the weapons that he used to do these gruesome murders. And let's see, Dover. Okay, so shortly before Christmas of 1987, Simmons decided to kill the members of his family on the morning of December the 22nd. So he started this murder spree. It was just like 3 days before Christmas. And I think the most sad part, but these guys did not talk about this when they were doing the rundown of him. The most crazy part is that about him, actually, all of the little toddler grandchildren, he choked them with his bare hands. So all of the small toddler children, he choked all of them with his bare hands. After he took the life of the grandchild, one of the daughters, one of the sons, and his wife, so he took their life first when he was home. And then he just sit around the house. He watched TV, drunk a beer, and he was just drinking beers until his other kids came home. They said that he used to sit in the back in a dark, stinky, smelly room that was very disgusting and filthy, and he just sit in there, and they said when you opened the door, the stench would hit you in the face. So he sat there and waited for his other children to come home. And once they got from school, he told them that he had a Christmas gift for them, and he wanted to give them the Christmas gifts one by one. So he called them in the back room one by one, killing them. He ended up strangling the smaller kids, and just one by one, each body that he ended up killing, he threw the bodies. That's what I was talking about when I was speaking of the hole that he had his kids build. He told these children that it was going to be like a waste field because they didn't have plumbing, so they actually had to go outside to relieve themselves. So he had them dig this hole that was about 4.5 feet deep, and it was very, very wide. So he had them dig that hole so he could have a place to throw their bodies in. So he actually basically had to dig their grave. Yes, that's what I was thinking too when I was reading the story, She Diaries. I said, I cannot imagine living in a place with no plumbing. Can you imagine the smell in that house? And then I'm thinking, like, what did you guys like? How did you guys wash dishes? How did you cook? Like, did you guys get a water hose from the back? Is that how you guys wash your dishes? them babies, dogs there in a deep grave. Yep, they dug themselves a deep grave, and he made them dig their own grave. That's the really, really sad part about it. But this story here is sad to say, but I remember reading another story about an Arkansas man. It wasn't to this extent, but this man did snap, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna have to read up on this story because I'm probably gonna come and talk about this story maybe later on. Now this man here, yeah, and how do they wash their? Oh, thank you. How do they wash their ass? Now that's a good question, She Diaries. And then that's what I was thinking. Like, you guys take a water hose. How nasty can you be to take a water hose and have to bathe yourself? They probably had to bathe themselves on a back porch. Oh, you okay, girl? I knew what you mean. Dig their own grave. And girl, I was just thinking, like, how disgusting can you be? And then another thing I was thinking is, how can a woman allow herself and her children to live in those conditions? I think if that woman was a single woman raising them kids by herself, she could have did a better job than what that man was doing. I mean, how can you live in conditions like that? And that's the big thing. What kind of triggered him to snap is because he had ended up finding a letter that his wife wrote to her son saying that she can't live like this anymore. And, she was basically saying she's going to leave him. So when he ended up finding that letter, that's when he started plotting. Yeah, you're right. You would be surprised because I have seen it. I have seen some married couples. I have seen some couples together living in pretty raggedy situations. And you know what the crazy part about that is? The crazy part about that is, She Diaries, is that I don't know if they had a water well. That's a good question. Because you know what? In small countries like that, especially real small countries surrounding around Arkansas, like I do people hair out there in Benton, Arkansas, and they live in places like Russellville and Sheridan and stuff, and they say that they have water well. Water well, the well water is very like what people would call hard water. And hard water is crazy on your skin. It has your skin crazy dry. It has your hair dry. Right. Without him, she wouldn't have to keep the children. Uh-huh. I just think she could have had a better life. She should have moved on way quicker. And most definitely, I wouldn't sit and write a letter about how I'm going to leave a man. And then most of the time, some of these guys are so crazy, you don't even need to sit around and talk about leaving him. You need to just do it. A lot of these guys out here, you can't sit around and discuss how you're going to leave them, or even in the midst of a fight, even in the midst of an argument, you can't sit around and say stuff like, I am leaving you. I am sick of this. No, don't do that. You need to just make preparations and leave. Do not discuss. Don't discuss what you are going to do. You need to just do it. Because you sitting around there talking about what you're gonna do, you could be putting yourself in harm's way, honey. Especially when you're dealing with somebody who not wrapped too tight. Now, this man was a trained killer, and I know some people, they don't look at it like that. They just look at it like this was a man who served his country, and he went off and did this. But this I don't think by any way, shape, or form should a story like this represent all people in the military. But you know how people are, we throw people in boxes. So when you see one person do it, I mean, it's kind of like if somebody, okay, for instance, it's like if somebody went to a salon or a barber shop and they got a bad hairdo or a bad haircut and they talk about it. they're gonna put everybody in their box. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you talking about Top Barber over there on Main Street? Oh, they messed me up." They're gonna say the word "they." They're not gonna say, "Oh, Johnny Johnson messed me up." They're gonna say the whole barbershop messed them. They're gonna put everybody in their barbershop in one box. Like everybody got their clippers and scissors and took turns messing their hair up. Like everybody get put in one box. That's just how this world is usually. Yep. Yes. Save your money and go. Yep. You got to save your money. Be quiet and just leave. Just leave. Never come back. That's right. You don't ever come back. Because one thing about it, if you're with an abusive person, if you leave and then you come back, usually when you come back, it's going to be worse because they're going to be torturing you and still upset about the fact that you left. Like, that's one thing about an abuser. Like, you can leave them and come back and they will be mad about why you left before. Yes, you're never supposed to go back. Never, ever, ever. But most definitely, I am going to find this story that I was telling you guys about. I think we're about close to the hour mark. We're about at 45 minutes. But I'm going to find the story that I was just talking about because this story here, I think he was a family man. He was married. He had children, but he didn't have a whole lot of children like this Ronald Simmons guy. I think it was probably only about 3 children, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a very nice house. He lived in the historic part of downtown Little Rock. And he now this was the devil made me do it type of situation. He actually said that he got possessed, and he said that voices told him to take the lives of his family. Now that was a very crazy story. Just a second. The dog ain't gone. Oh, he gone. Oh, okay. He did pull it out. Okay. All right, so yeah, that situation was, this happened in Arkansas too, right downtown Little Rock. Now, like I said, this situation that I'm speaking on about this gentleman, it was a kind of different situation because he only had a few kids. This guy was a businessman, and he took and then this is the creepy part. Now he said that the devil told him to take the lives of his family. And I think allegedly around the time that he did these murders, it was around like 3:15, what people would call the witching hour, the devil hour, whatever, demon time. But he took their lives around that time in this actual house. And you know what I said, guys, when it get close to Halloween, I most definitely want to go to some of these sites of these houses. I'm not talking about the Gene Simmons house. I wouldn't dare. But the house about this story, once I tell the story, I most definitely want to go to the house and show you some footage of this actual house. Because if I'm not mistaken, around Halloween, I think they actually put this house on display as a haunted house, and you actually get a chance to go and kind of like tour the house too. And I've heard, now this is what I heard, because one of my clients was telling me about the story, but they say it's a lot of paranormal, spooky things that go on inside the house. So most definitely, I want to go and take a visit at this house. It's not too far from where I reside in Little Rock. So I'm most definitely going to go and take a look at this house. I'm going to go over here and make sure the address is right and everything. But I actually want to show you guys footage of this house and discuss the story of that house. So yes, at least a couple of days out of the week up until Halloween, I'll be coming with these type of stories. So you guys make sure you check it out, hit that subscribe button. If you have not, I thank you so very much for your time. And I am signing out. Katie Talk 101. Drop your comments below. Let me know what you think about this Gene Simmons situation. All right, you guys be careful out there. And most definitely stay positive. All right. Yes. Yay. What you say? Yay. Okay. So make sure y'all stay tuned. I know you're going to want to see the haunted house now. Yes. All right. You guys enjoy your Tuesday. And I'm signing out. Katie Talk 101.